In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to use Bootstrap to create your very first HTML website. So basically, this is gonna be a review of all the exercises that you've done so far. Again, it's very important to be organized when you're dealing with creating interactive content, because if your files are not organized and named correctly, nothing will work right. So please take your time, um, be methodical, and stop the video in sections and catch yourself up, and then proceed to the next stage. That is really the best way to learn these really complicated applications. So the very first thing you want to do, make sure Dreamweaver is not open. Want to make a folder, and you're only going to do this once. Okay, so this is going to be the first time you're going to start with your projects. I'm going to call it project 1, and basically, if you saved out images that you want to use for your site from Photoshop, you want to create a folder and call it images, all lowercase, and then put all the pictures that you want to use inside of this folder. But again, they should be based on your design, so you may have some pictures that are maybe smaller, maybe they're square, and maybe some pictures like this one I'm going to be using for the banner, which is going to be larger. So you want to make sure you have it all, and make sure you name them something very clear and short. And you want to put that. So basically, I have my folder. I have nothing in there, just an images folder. Now I'm going to launch Dreamweaver, and again, you're going to do this only one time, unless you change computers or you change the location of your folder. So now I have to tell Dreamweaver where my files are located. Again, you'll see as soon as you see a sign of a computer here, it means Dreamweaver has no idea where your files are at. So you want to create on the link that says Manage Site, and you see that I don't have anything in here that reflects project 1, so I'm going to make a new site, call it project 01, click on this folder, and point to the project 1 folder that I already created on my desktop. So again, if you leave everything as it is, like this, you do this process only once. But let's say if you change the location of your root folder, you have to come back to this here again, click the pencil tool, and guide it to the new location. Okay, so again, we'll do this only one time. It says, and whenever you see the /, that means it's pointing to a folder. So as soon as I say done, you'll see that it populates in the files panel, and it shows my images. That's the only thing I have in here. So that's very important. The next step is also very important. You want to create your first new page. So you want to say File New, and you want to make sure this is set to HTML and this is set to Bootstrap. If you have none and you have Bootstrap, you want to make sure it's set to Bootstrap, and you want to make sure you create new. Create new, and this should not be checked. Nothing should be checked here. So HTML, Bootstrap, new, and you want to say create. And as soon as you do that, you want to say File, Save As, like immediately. You want to save this file, call it index. That means that's going to be the first page of your site. You want to save it inside of your root folder, which is already pointing to. Okay? And if you come back here, you'll see that the program automatically populated my folder with this JavaScript and Bootstrap CSS components, which are really complex interactivity programming languages. So I'm going to come back here. So I have my index. I already saved it. And for the viewing option, I generally like to have my viewing option on the left-hand side. So if you go to View, Split, I usually have it split vertically, and then I flip the live view on the left. So that's usually how I change the view, but you can do it however you wish. Make sure you save your document immediately. So anytime that you're creating a site, uh, anything that's going to be visible to the viewer online needs to be within this body tag. So I want to come right below the body tag right here, and this gray code is basically just, they're called code hints, and that's just so that uh, I can leave notes for myself in case, because on some of the websites that you may be working on, you may have more than 100 divs or components. So, you can leave little notes for yourself so you know where to put what. So the first thing we want to do from the insert panel, I'm going to actually click here, and you see that there are different options. You want to click on insert, and you want to make sure you choose Bootstrap component. So, and you want to make sure your cursor is right below the body tag. Anytime you're working on interactive content, the first thing you need to add is a container div, which means that everything on your website needs to be within that container. So as soon as I click it, it populates the div. So I'm going to click next to my bracket. Make sure you don't, you have the opening and the closing. I'm going to move this down. I'm going to add content for myself so I know that this is going to be like everything that I need to have on my website needs to be above this list, this div. So I'm going to come back here and click on this option, apply HTML code, and I'm going to say opening container div. Copy this, come back here, paste it, and just say closing div. Closing. So now I know that everything that I need to have on my website has to be below this div and above this closing div. Very, very important to leave these notations. Now, next thing I'm going to add here is a navigation. So I'm going to move this up here, and you see that I have a navigation tab, and if I click it, because there's an arrow, so when I click it, it gives me options in terms of what kind of nav I want to add. So for this one, I'm going to just say, let's see here, basic nav bar. So I'm going to just add a basic nav bar, and I'm going to save this, and I'm going to preview this. Oh, it's not going to show me this way. Okay. I'm going to actually do it a different way. Grab it to the browser. You see that I have a very basic nav bar, even have a drop down and a search box, which we're going to customize later. So that's the first thing I wanted to add. And again, I'm going to move down my nav, just move it down. And from here, I'm going to add a responsive image. So I'm going to click on responsive design, and it gives me like a default kind of a box. Make sure your properties is set, and click on the box, and you get the option, the property panel on the source. You see that it's just pointing to some library in Dreamweaver. Click on the folder next to it, and then get out of, go back to your desktop or wherever your root folder is, and then click on the images, and I'm going to add the doggy picture here, and I'm going to immediately save. And this is a responsive design picture. Now, again, I'm going to move press the return key to move down, just go below the picture. I want to add like a text box. So here I'm going to click on grid row with column. And it says, okay, how many columns do you want and where do you want it? So I'm going to say, you know what, give me 2 columns and do it right after the picture of my doggy. So now I'm immediately save. Now I have the picture of my dog. I have textual information. And one thing that I want you to pay attention to, you see that the static text that goes in the text field is always reflected in white. So if I go back and just do, sorry, just gonna grab this. You can come here and make sure you don't delete any of the brackets. You can simply just paste your text within the code. Same here. So you can highlight it here, or you can go and do it here. I prefer to work on the code just because it's a lot cleaner. Sometimes when you do it in the program, it doesn't respond, which is frustrating. So again, I'm going to save this, and now I'm going to come back up to my nav. So my nav bar here, it's basically could be the name of your, like, welcome to ease and design company, and it just reflects right there. And the nav bar, again, it's easier to change it uh, in the code, but you see you have your live nav and design nav option as well. So if you change it to design, you can actually go back and change it in here. So here, for example, you can say, instead of link, you can say gallery, and so we have the drop down, and then within the drop down we have the different actions. So maybe this one could be about, and maybe contact, and anytime you want to disable something, so for example, if I don't want to show that nav that shows disabled, you can actually copy this code here, the gray code, and then this is what I want to disable. So I'm going to just grab the LI, not the UL, just the LI, and just put it in here. Now that nav is not going to show up. So another thing so I'm going to just save this. So I have my picture, I have my drop down, I have about, oh, there's another action I'll show you how to delete that, and search box. So I'm going to show you like a couple other things. So it was another action here. So here, if I move this down, again, you want to make sure you don't delete things by mistake. So again, I can just copy the A stands for the link. I'll just after the about, I'm just gonna copy this A class drop down item and do the closing of the A tag. And I'm gonna just simply come back here and just put it right after that, the little arrow that I have here. So it has to be gray, otherwise if it's not gray, it means that you didn't do it correctly. I'm gonna go ahead and save. The last thing that I'm asking you to do for this week is, let's see here, let me just open this up a little bit more. Just preview this is, yeah, everything's looking good.